Welcome back. Now, we have some really important sections coming up, and just before wrapping up this section, I want to show you a couple things when it comes to using assets in general when building levels, and more specifically, our setup here. Now, you may be using different assets, but one of the things I noticed on the edges of my block here, I have some room. There's about perhaps half a meter that Aura could totally squeeze through, right? So Aura can fit through this and make it to the other side. Now, this is kind of a small issue, but depending on how you go about it, you could create a lot of extra work for yourself. So I wanted to just sort of visit this scenario a little bit and show you perhaps something that could save you some time. Now, one of the easiest ways to close that gap would be to perhaps take some geometry and move it over. I'm going to undo that because I don't have snapping on. I'm going to set snapping increments to 100 and snap this over by 100 units, and that looks pretty good. Now, that means I'm going to probably want to snap this one over, and that means there's a gap here. Now, you could just snap all of them over like so, but then if we go over here to the right side, there's still this issue where we have a gap. And there's kind of exactly one square worth right there. Now, you might think, well, I have single tiles, right? Or I even have 2x1s, 2x2s. If I go into the dungeon assets folder, I've got my little 1x1, right? And sure, you could rotate this by 90 degrees. Again, don't have snapping on for rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate by 90 here and bring it up and over and perhaps duplicate it. You get the picture. You could, create something that is that size. Now, I kind of want to show you a little bit of a secret, in a sense, about these blocks and how I made them. You see, I already had some flat tiles like the 2x3s and things like that I've created, and I used those to create these blocks. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and drag in a 3x3. So let's use the 3x3A here. So for one, I'm going to raise it by 90 degrees, and I'll duplicate it a few times. So I'm just going to hold Alt and rotate it down by 90 and bring it over so that it's like this. So we have one side on the bottom there. Can't really see it because it's too dark, but it's there. And I can take this piece here and rotate it by 90 degrees and bring it over here. I can rotate it the other way like this and bring this other piece over to here and then duplicate and rotate by 90 this way and bring it up like that. Actually, I think I want this pointed the other way. So without duplicating, rotating it that way. You get the point. So I made basically this block, right? Now it's open on this side because I want an additional row. So what I can do is see if I have a 1x3, and it looks like I don't. So I'm just going to take a 1x2, and you can make a 1x3 using the method I'm about to show you, but I'm going to take this 1x2, rotate it by 90 here, and place it right up against this one. And I'm going to take a 1x1, here's one, and stick it right there. Okay? And I'm also going to take these, duplicate as I rotate down by 90, and pull them out like this. And I'm going to duplicate this one and do the same thing, bringing it up to this side and down. And I'll take one of these 1x1s. I'll take this one, duplicate and rotate 90 this way, and bring it up and place it there, right there in place. And just fill this in on the other side as well. So I'm just going to duplicate these, bring them over, and bring them over here. And then I think I could put a 2x3. I believe I have those. 3x2. Accidentally duplicated it twice. So I'm going to fill this part in here with this 3x2. There we go. That looks good. The only thing I have to be careful of is the bottom here. It's missing a row. So I'm going to take this row here, duplicate like this, by 90, of course, bring it down and over. So I have this 3x3x4 is what it is. Now I can combine this into its own static mesh asset. So to do that, I'm going to take all the pieces that make up this large block and make sure I have them all selected all at once. It's important not to miss any of them. So selecting these, make sure I get that side and of course the top. Now that I have them all, what I can do is I can go into modeling mode. Shift 5 is the hotkey. And if I go into modeling mode, I can combine these into one mesh asset. So under create, if I click on merge, and here in the modeling tab, it says write to new object, name combined, output type from input, handle inputs. It says delete inputs. So it's going to delete these that I have selected. And I'm going to call this SM tile 3x3x4 and click accept. Now I'm going to come back out into selection mode and notice this is now called SM tile 3x3x4 and it's one big piece. And if I right click on it and browse to the asset, well, it put it in this maps generated Druid folder by default, but I'm going to put this back in my dungeon folder here. So I'm going to drag it to the dungeon folder, move here, and then take this new generated Druid folder and delete it. I tend to delete the inner folder first and then delete the outer folder. That's just how I do it. And now I have a bigger piece. So that's kind of nice, right? So I can actually replace this one, except this was a fade actor. So I can go ahead and make a fade actor out of this. If I edit the static mesh asset, I'm actually going to browse to it first because when it was named, it got a whole bunch of extra characters at the end. So I'm going to change that and open this. And notice that it does have a number of materials. It's got 4. So 2 of these I already have fade actor materials for, tile set 1 and 2. But it's also using a couple others. So I need to make fade materials for those. So what I'd like to do is just make a fade actor for a 3x3x4. And I can time lapse that. And by the end of it, I can replace this one here by one that's a little bit wider. And so I thought I'd show you this workflow by creating new meshes in modeling mode because this can be really nice and you can avoid having to create an actor with multiple meshes and go through all that mess. And of course, one of the last things to do in the static mesh editor is we can show simple collision and notice that the collision looks like the collision from the original mesh. So what I'm going to do is remove collision and just add box simplified collision so it has an appropriate collision volume, and we'll save that. So I'm going to time lapse the rest of the video where I make a fade actor, but I'll still show you all the steps that I'd take, and then we'll wrap up. So time lapsing here. Okay, so it looks like I've got my fade actor. I fill in its material instances, and I have a 3x3x4. So I can go ahead and just delete this mesh and bring in my fade actor here. Just remove that one and bring in my new one. Always using browse to open up folders quickly. So we'll get that in there and just rotate it by 90 and place it in place. Now it looks like my origin might not be perfect. That's fine. I can go ahead and just lower my snapping increment and get it right up against where it needs to be. And I might have actually needed a 2x4x3, but that's fine. I'm just going to bring it down into the ground and cheat a little bit there. And now we have a blocked path. So the last thing to do is to test out how this works. First of all, did we block the path properly? We did. And I guess we should check on this side too. Did we block the path here? And we did. Okay. And then does the fade actor work? So let's go around to the other side, see if it fades out. And it does. Okay, so I thought I'd show that workflow and obviously tweak that workflow as you need, right? As you see fit. Just keep in mind that that modeling mode is there if you'd like to make more complex types of geometry. You know, you could make one where it looks like these 3 blocks here are missing, for example. So it's really up to you. But I thought I'd show that. And of course, one of the last things to do is go into our fade actor and set its block visibility to true. And that way we can auto run onto that block. So click and release, short press. And that's not going to work because we need to check that mesh. And let's see what the mesh has. For collision presets, we'll go ahead and make sure it's blocking visibility there as well. And a short press works. Excellent. All right, so just thought I'd show you that. Pretty cool. And I'll see you in the next section.